Hi there, guys. I just wanted to let you know that I am filling in for Mary as liaison for this meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining.
Okay, awesome. Typically, my protocol when I join as liaison is I am here for any questions you guys may have, but otherwise I will turn my camera off and listen in and just be available as support as needed.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all sort of hardened professionals here, I think, at this stage. So
Yeah,
we're familiar with the protocol. Thank you.
All right.
Since we have a quorum, I think it's time we can bring the meeting to order and start with our roll call, please. I'm Ed Holland, I'm chair.
Kevin Welch.
Caroline Vertonghen.
Thank you. And item 2 is for any oral communications for items not on the agenda, and that includes residents, people attending on Zoom, and any of the committee members. So if you have something that you would like to draw the committee's attention to, please go ahead. Anyone joining us from? No? Okay. Caroline, you have something to comment?
Well, first I wanted to make a correction to a comment that I made last time, and that was I had concerns about the grading of the trail by the intersection of Alpine and Portola Road. And since then I have looked at it, and it looks like the students have no problem descending that trail. I had proposed to put stairs and steps like we have at Westridge and Portola Road, but that doesn't seem to be necessary. And I just wanted to share with the committee that I apologized, and I thanked Mr. Howard for doing the grading. So that the second comment I wanted to make is what I shared with our chair is I'm trying to understand the process of making our committee more effective in fulfilling our responsibilities. And I'm still working on that and trying to find a way to do that. So one of the things that I had proposed is when issues come up, I would like to keep them on the agenda until they are resolved. For instance, I thought that Mr. Kupal was going to be here because he has addressed ongoing concerns about Alpine Inn, the parking, the emergency gate, and then the the dangerous parking on Golden Oak and the turns, which was confirmed are illegal, but residents on Golden Oak claim that is not safe. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I think that does raise a question. Perhaps, Sarah, if you could advise, if we keep a running list of agenda items and ongoing committee business that can be either for review if there's something new, or just kept as a placeholder with no activity for the month, if that's appropriate. Sarah, are you still with us? Could you comment?
Yeah, I'm here. Please? I'm here. Anything that's on the agenda can be discussed or not discussed. So for instance, on you know, an example that I'm thinking of as I'm hearing that question is Parks and Rec kind of keeps a running list of new business and old business, and they don't touch on everything they touch on the majority, but that might be an approach that would work for this circumstance.
Okay, I could modify the agenda structure slightly to include that as a new ongoing business and old ongoing business, or some such proposal.
Because some of these items, we don't have enough time to have these items. you don't get to the.
Yeah.
So if we can have something on the sidebar, where it's still active, we can adjust it when necessary.
Okay, thank you. Do we need to actually make a formal proposal for that, or is that something we can change in an ad hoc way?
Is that question to me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you guys can create your agenda as you see fit. So I don't know that you need to do anything other than, submit it that way for future meetings.
All right, thank
You
you.
think-
That's
I couldn't hear the comment that was made, that well. But I think it was about the amount of time. And my understanding is this meeting is generally run, within an hour. When you have running items, for instance, Parks and Rec goes 3 hours. So it's just something to consider.
yeah, thank you. I try and keep us to within the hour as much as possible, but occasionally an item will mushroom into a longer discussion. All right, thank you for that. I think that's helpful advice, and I think the committee is in agreement that we can change our agenda structure just a little bit to help reflect that we haven't forgotten about items that have been, in some cases, long ongoing, and so they come and they go, and so we all understand what's still our current affairs. Thank you. Okay, are there any more comments in the open comment section for our meeting? Otherwise, I propose that we move on to item 3. That would be approval of the minutes for the September 6th, 2023 meeting. Does anyone have any comment about the meeting, last meeting's minutes? Caroline, I see your hand up.
Yes, and I apologize if I was not clear when I made some statements, but I do have some corrections, and I will be happy to send you my corrections, and then we can hopefully then the committee can approve them. So under number 2, oral communication, it says based on the handbook. So this is my communication. Based on the handbook, she noted that nobody can make recommendations to the town manager. I might have misspoken, but it is nobody can make recommendations to town council, but the town manager. So that's the change I wanted to make. Then in number 3, I would like to have some clarification, and hopefully we can add it to that comment. Pat recommended the proposal provided that a correction be made to show that the funding from crossing guards would jointly fund it. I'm still not clear if jointly is that PV Town Council and or PV Town and PVSD, Portola Valley School District. Caroline would like to know, this is further down under the sheriff's report, the location of bicycle citations. I believe I asked for the location of bicycle citations and accidents. Angela was nice enough to add it in her report, but I don't believe that the location was in the sheriff's report.
Okay, thank you. That's something we can discuss with Officer Taylor on our next agenda item.
In number 5, down the line, Caroline asked if there were differences in trail management around schools, such as smoothing and cleaning the trails. She was particularly interested on the work done near the Priory when Georgia Lane trails are used by, and I meant to say, students who attend public schools. So what I was hopefully saying is there seems to be work done by the town for public schools, and it's different for private schools. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I propose that we accept the minutes with the changes proposed by Caroline. Do I have a second?
You have a second, Ed.
Thank you. So I move that we approve the minutes with the corrections. I approve.
Oh, it's right.
So we approve
Sorry.
unanimously.
Yes.
Thank you. Please note that, Pat. I think the only things you're really required to note in the minutes are any motion that's passed, any proposal that's made, and any other official vote that's taken. And the other details, it's not expected to have to be a word for word transcript of the meeting. So those requirements are actually just elemental rather than covering the entire meeting and of course you can go to the recording. That's correct. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 4. It's our report from the sheriff. So, thank you, Patrick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So start with the collisions report. The collisions report, we had one accident in October or in August, I mean. So one minor injury accident, just due to unsafe speed, person drifted off the roadway. That was on 800 block of Portola Road. Compared to August of 2022, we just had 2 accidents then, both of them non-injury. Person in the accident in August was treated for the injuries on scene, so no major transports or anything like that. For citations for the month, we had 0 moving citations for the month in Portola Valley. This number should change now that we had some clarification on the survey, and I think it's been submitted now. Howard and I have been talking about that, so that's been submitted so that we can start doing radar lidars with enforcement in the town. Parking citations were 8. So far for the year, we have 79 total citations for movers, 56 parking citations for a total of 105 citations. 9 of those have been for bicycles. We've only had, and then for accidents, we've had for the year, we've had 11 accidents in Portola Valley. 4 of them have been bicycle involved accidents. So.
Okay, thank you. There were a couple of questions from people on the committee. I know Kevin wanted to ask about particularly for the Zots to Tots event. Actually, I meant to make an oral communication about that at the beginning. I'll bring that along to the end. The location of the the signage trailers warning about the event for the 2 weeks prior to, I think it was 2 weeks prior to Zots to Tots. Their location was somewhat questionable, particularly the one on Alpine Road, which was located in its first location was not visible. I think it was behind it.
Directly behind a 35-mile speed zone sign.
So that,
yeah, we addressed that one after it was made aware that.
And the new location placed it right behind a tree, so it was still not visible.
Well, we'll have a discussion with the people who put those out from now on and make sure that they're checking the visibility of those signs.
Yeah, and I think Kevin and I in discussion had agreed that a location further towards the Ladera end of the town boundary would be preferable to catch more people who'd likely be heading in and out of town. So if there's somewhere either at or slightly ahead of Westridge Drive, whether that would be visible and safe to place, would perhaps be a preferable location for that trailer.
Yeah, I think in the future we'll have to make sure that the people who are putting them out have an understanding. We had to use some CSOs from a different bureau to get those out that day because we had some people who had were off for medical reasons that normally do the signage for us.
Okay, thank you. I mean, as well as it would be useful for us to have a sort of a primer packet of all the things that need to get done and what are the preferred locations and all the other things surrounding organization of these events, and including a timetable for everything, starting a couple of weeks before. Yeah. So all of those things come into that.
A few things to say.
Go ahead, please, Kevin.
Okay. I really appreciate the sheriff's office coming out there. We did not have any major accidents. We only had one little boy, I think, scraped up his knee running down the hill. Other than that, it ran pretty smooth. The only thing I suggest for next year is we close the road completely down. We did not close the road completely down. We had bicyclists still coming through, and people unauthorized to be in the race were coming through, especially on bicyclists. Some of the officers or whoever were saying, oh, it's okay to go ahead and go through town. So we had people on bicycles trying to come down Portola Road as well as Alpine Road to go on the side of the race. I really think we have to close the whole road down next year. 9:30 to 11, or if we open it before, that's fine. As the road starts moving, the race starts moving forward, then we can close that, open up that part of the road.
Stopping at the finish line. It was really dangerous. Police officers. That finish line just overrun. We had people trying to go up Westwood behind where were the bicyclists that were the civilian bicyclists.
Cannot hear the person that is talking.
Okay, thank you. Pat, you need to speak closer to the microphone.
How about this one? Okay. So I was at the finish line and we had exactly the same problem. Civilian cyclists were coming through, approaching from to the back of the police officer who was trying to control the traffic that had to go up Westridge. We avoided many accidents by just a hair. Last year, the road was completely shut down. And this year, for some reason, cyclists were okay to go through. And I agree completely. It's gotta be shut down, period. It's too confusing. It's too dangerous.
The other thing I might want to mention is the equestrians were also running in the race. And one of the authorized persons on the route apparently told them, hey, you guys have to hold up. These people are in the race. They've been in the race for years, and we usually have no problem with the equestrians. It is an unusual race to have equestrians, tailor-taught strollers, small bicyclists, rollerbladers, senior citizens running. And that's why we really have to have that road closed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Caroline, you have a comment.
I have another question for the sheriff. Thank you very much for giving the report. Would it be possible to give us that report before we have our meeting?
That report did come to me, and I apologize for not sending it out to the whole committee ahead of time.
Okay, sorry.
I think
Ed?
returning.
Ed?
Oh, Gary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just one thing. I also was at Westridge at Portola, and I was amazed at the number of cars on the road coming north. So that I think that's a problem. The bicyclists who insisted on wanting to go south on Portola were asked in many cases, take your bike over in the trail and walk it up. I think some of them just wanted to get to the open space. It didn't work all the time, but that was attempted anyway. As far as the trailer position on on Alpine Road, west of Westridge, there aren't very many places to put it. And I once squeezed it in to eat just east of Westridge somehow. I don't think it was a very safe place, but there are some difficulties on placement of the trailer and until the location where it was placed for the race. So that's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. I think one thing that occurs to me after reviewing a little from on the day and from the comments that we've received today, having a clearer timetable, a clearer strategy and a policy on how the road is closed and what's allowed is something that we can confer on. We've got 12 months to look at this and put something together as a much more comprehensive package for the design of the day. So at some juncture, I'd like to form a subcommittee, get that out, run that past sheriff's office, and get the buy-in from everyone before we go ahead next time. I do think there was a good effort this year. We had involvement from the Emergency Preparedness Committee, from our CERT team, and again from the Sheriff's Office with a big turnout. And I would like to say a very big thank you to everybody who was involved. Does anyone else have comment for Patrick? I had one question regarding, I know that there is a means now online that you can report violations, traffic violations pertaining to bicycles. So a violation of the 3-foot law and other things. Two questions related to that reporting. One is, is there a list of the things that can be reported of traffic behavior towards bicycles or other violations that you might observe going beyond the 3-foot law? For example, if I see somebody operating a cell phone or something as they pass me, is that something that I can report?
You can report those things. Our requirement is that we're required to provide a warning letter for the new bicycle traffic information. I think it's in the pamphlet. I think I provided this pamphlet to everybody. If not, let me know and I can get a bunch of them sent out to you guys in either PDF or whatever, but it has all the violations and stuff in it that you can provide. So, but you can report whatever you want through the online portal, including other crimes too, so.
Thank you. And then my follow-up question is, what happens to the information that's collected in that portal? Is there any action taken upon it, or is it just kept as a record?
Depending on the violation or criminal report, it just depends on what's being reported. If it's a 3-foot rule violation, there's a stance taken right now in the state that we're going to generate a warning letter for the driver for an educational purposes. If it's confirmed the 3-foot rule violation occurred, if it's a criminal case then or something like that, then we will investigate the criminal case and document and reports.
Okay, thank you. So be vigilant and try and memorize license numbers, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do in that situation. So, okay, thank you very much. If we don't have any more comments.
No, I have a question.
I beg your pardon, I can't see all the screens and all the hands. Rita, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. I just 3 comments. When we're talking about license plates, I don't know if the sheriff's department is stopping cars, mostly very nice cars, without front license plates and citing them and encouraging them to get front license plates, since we do have the license plate readers. And if there was a car that will look more like a possible old pickup that didn't have one, I think that would be stopped. So I'd like to encourage, I don't know what percentage of those monies that the town receives, but just for safety with the 5 recent burglaries, I hope that those cars are being cited and encouraged to get front license plates. For the sign saying, this road is closed for, Zot to Tots, I saw the sign, and I have a lot of friends that are part of the Peloton and ride their bikes, and a lot of neighbors that just, ride their bikes on that road for exercise. And that sign was actually on the bike lane, in the bike lane, which then would compound a large group of people, or even one person that is safely riding in the bike lane. They would have to go out into the street, which of course on Alpine Road, not everybody is conscientious or focusing on their driving as they should be. But every time I saw that, we have enough land along the road, or we can talk to a neighbor and say, hey, can we put this on your property for 2 weeks that are needed? But perhaps for next year, not have it in the bike lane, because that is the primo time with the weather, and hopefully, with the weather not raining yet, possibly, for the bikers that need that one more ride before it starts raining. Appreciate all that you do, but please look into that. And I've called a few times because of coming through Arrastradero for Alpine Inn. I know that's Santa Clara County, but it affects us as we turn onto Alpine Road, and other people that are turning because they can't find parking, that are then going to Ford Field to park. Alpine Inn, it's a great business. I'm not sure how much money we receive from there for taxes, because no one's ever given us that number and we can't find it in our sites. But it's a place that sells alcohol. So I don't know if that increased accidents there in that area, but there are people that are making U-turns, looking for parking spaces that are over the line and causing dangerous situations. has there been an increase of accidents? And should we look to get that report from that corner on the Santa Clara line on Arrastradero? Because it not only puts us in, in danger of alcohol-related accidents, but it also puts us in fire danger, as one of our escape routes would then be cut off because we can't get through, or perhaps the fire truck can't get through. So I don't know if there's any extra attention that our sheriff's department can do for that corner, or work with the owners so that a clearer message can be put out there. But I drive through there 4 times a day, and I tell you, sometimes it's very scary with the strollers coming across and people running across and people parking wherever they'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. You've certainly touched on one of my pet peeves, which is front license plates. So I would appreciate a comment from you, Patrick, on that one. Your other comments about safety in particular areas. We have recently requested from the Sheriff's Office that we have more details surrounding incidents. So that should also include location. So that would allow us to track where the most common incidents or the highest frequencies are occurring. Yeah, Patrick, my question to you is to refer onto Rita's comment about front license plates, please.
Front license plate citations are a fix-it ticket, the common term used for it. So typically they are enforced when officers have discretion which one they want to write. Front license plates is a huge problem for us, then we would write citations for that. We tend to write more citations that would involve the safety of the community, like speed, stop sign violations, stuff like that, instead of a front license plate. The front license plate for I heard a comment about the flock cameras or the license plate readers, doesn't really have that much of an issue. It can be a deterrent, or not a deterrent, but it can be an issue. But most of the times our flock cameras are positioned so that you get a front and back read on a vehicle, so that you would get the rear license plate just in case. So that's sort of the issue on reading of it with an LPR. Usually the LPRs are positioned so you have a front and a back camera coming in. So and then was there another question?
No, I think that covers it. Thank you. I see, Christy, do you have a hand up?
Yes, thank
Christy, go.
you.
Please be brief. We are starting to run very much into our time here. We have a lot more items to cover.
Okay, I want to thank you for your help blocking the roads. I thought it went really smoothly this year. Thanks, Ed, for and the sheriff for your help. It just went well. We hope that you stay to listen to the Hawthorne discussion, since a lot of it will be traffic, and we would like your input as sheriff. We do not have flock readers. We have the old 3 other kind of readers. So when you say front and back, that would be both sides of the road. Is that correct? And then my suggestion would be to put how to sign up for the alerts at the bottom of your sheriff alert, because we got lots of questions as to how to sign up. And often one person in the family will be signed up, but not everyone. So we want to make sure we get everyone signed up and have an easy way to access that. So I know it's online, but we also want it on your alerts. Thank you. And then I want to keep the flock reader as still a goal for this community. We know that Los Altos Hills has flock, Woodside has flock, San Carlos has flock. I guess Menlo Park just decided not to do it due to budget, I believe. But we would like your help once we do get the budget for additional flock readers in our hotspot areas. And since Ladera is the second half of Alpine Road that we all drive every day, we'd like some reports on Ladera successes or robberies as well, because they often affect us and we affect them and so on. But I do believe that you should be reporting the fix-it tickets for no license in the front and back. Please follow up with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. To answer one of your questions, I can confirm, I've just conferred with Howard, that the license plate readers that we do have do record both the front and the rear of the vehicle.
So are you still getting the reads from our older system versus the flock? Because you mentioned you thought we had flock and we do not. We have an electronic system.
No, I know we do not have flock.
I believe Portola Valley has Vigilant or Motorola systems.
Howard, can you confirm what?
So you're still getting them
Yeah,
in your cars, even though it's not flock? I'm just confirming.
So the system we have is a vigilant system, and when we say old and new, I want to put that into perspective. They're only 6 years old. So it is a vigilant system, and it is up and running in our town, and I know the county has one on Alpine Road too. But once again, I want to put it in perspective. This was discussed at a community meeting before the flock cameras, and we understand that it's a newer technology. But once again, the vigilant system we have is only 6 years old. Thank you.
So does the sheriff get that on their chest? All the vigilant system is my question.
Yes, we have an agreement that we are able to access the Vigilant information. We have both systems that we can access through town agreements. So
Thank you. And the sheriff meeting was not taped, so I was unavailable and I was unable to watch a tape. So in the future, if we could tape any meetings with the sheriff, that'd be great.
Howard, you have a comment?
Yeah, understood. And that community meeting, it was a public meeting that was notified. It was held in the community hall, so we didn't have a Zoom capabilities in the community hall because there was quite a bit of number of people that showed up, including the sheriff and the mayor, Jeff Alps also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think in the interest of time, I'll close out this item. Thank you, Patrick. And let's move on to our next item 6, which is a public works update from Howard Young.
Thank you. Just wanted to, the update, the first item I want to talk about is what we did. School did start and we focused our crews. Once again, we have a small crew of just 2 laborers right now, down 1 person. When we focused on the school routes. So first thing was immediately around the schools before school started, and then and then outwards on the school routes, and mainly that's maintenance, clearing vegetation. What's next is upcoming in October. What we start doing is the trails, drainage features on the trails. We start cleaning water bars and looking at ditches. A lot of those things happen after the first rains when it pushes the leaves into obvious spots. And then we start focusing on the streets also for drainage in mid-October, pretty much October, November, and December. We'll focus on the streets, and there's 109 streets in town that we look into with a small crew. The next thing we do is the fields renovations, our annual field renovations in the winter, where we close the fields and look at them for reseeding is being prepared for. So let's see the next item. So we did have a series of events, summer concert and a town picnic, all within a couple of weeks in a farmer's market that the crew was prepping and cleanup for also. So that's my update on general items. The second item, there's no major reported issues so far for traffic. I know that we have kept our eye on Golden Oaks and Alpine, both for litter and parking. We have kept an eye on. So let's see, the third item, I guess, crosswalk updates, timetable, and completion that was asked. So I think I asked for comments before about, it sounded like there were some concerns about the crosswalk before, and those might have to be flushed out, but I think from what I understand, the design is okay. That was distributed by Ed, I believe. Okay. So the one at Portola and in front of the Priory is a system that's going to be hooked up to the existing electrical. The one on Alpine is a solar system that we're looking at. So, you know, I just want to preface that there will be solar panels out there. And I preface this with a couple of things. You know, I was the interim town manager for about 5 months, so we have some public works buildup of things on an operation side. We have also a large staff turnover. I don't know if anyone's heard, but we do have staff turnover. So we're trying to reset and refocus and dealing with right now just day-to-day operations with the people that we have. So with fall coming up, there's going to be some weather delays with rain. And I did talk to Ed about, you know, a realistic, you know, something that's a realistic schedule. And, you know, after touching base with Paul Krupka and the engineering team and looking at some of the materials and just reopening this, you know, we're looking at, we're going to try to get to it, but, you know, we're looking realistically spring 2024. And the grant that we applied for, and once again, this was a competitive grant that we won, that we budgeted for. It allows us up to September of 2024 to complete the construction. So there could be updates as we move along, as we check with our vendors and contractors and engineers, but that is my update for now.
Thank you, Howard. Are there any questions following on from that for Howard?
Thank you for the report. These are items that we have asked before, and I still have no clarification. As I mentioned several times, I have a problem with the crosswalk design. That's one thing. And I have concerns that the public has not been informed. The designs were approved in 2019 on the condition that the current crosswalk, which is by Priory and Portola Road, was going to be moved towards Corte Madera. And I understand you guys looked at that, and there were other recommendations. I have not seen them, but I don't agree with the location that we saw on the design. The public has not seen the new designs, which is nothing different than the old designs. My concern is also that, you know, we haven't seen anything in 4 years. So are they really necessary? And could we not work with the cross, with the flags? Because that seems to work. Secondly, we might have new residents. What if they suddenly see that there is a flashing beacon in front of them? Is that correct to install them without notification? You know, these are concerns to me, and I think we should discuss this, or at least make it clear for the public that that's what the intent is, and that's the work that we're going to do. Another issue is the finances. I mean, Portola Valley has a deficit. Can we have a full accounting for the implementation of these flashing beacons? I believe that we learned that the grant was 60,000. How much is the complete work? And is the town ready for this? These are my comments. Thank you.
So let me try to handle these one by one. So when we say the design was finalized in 2019, I don't think that's fully accurate. I think we started talking about some, you know, we started talking about safe routes in general. I mean, we talked about implementing signs in general at 14 to 15 intersections, and we did a majority of them. We're done almost right away. When we, yeah, I can't recall. I think it was 10 or 11 of the intersections were done almost right away when we incorporated with the street resurfacing project. The moving to the intersection, another intersection, and I think you indicated that that was determined. That was not determined. It was If I recall, the council directed the staff to, the team to look at it to see if it was viable. And the engineering team determined it was not viable because of elevation differences, because of the trail alignment, and because of retaining wall most likely had to be placed in those areas. So that it was determined that the around the existing location was the best location, because when you look at either side of it, either side of the crosswalk, the elevation of the trail is almost even with the crosswalk. So the elevations and the grading and topography are the biggest factors. So so I hope I answered that second. That also, we looked at strollers also. I mean, there would be a set to compensate for that great elevation. There might have been stairs there also. So a retaining wall there and a set of stairs. We thought basically living in the vicinity of the old, the original location where it is today, plus or minus several feet, would be the best location. And for site visibility also, and in addition to that, the utilities in the area.
I understand that, but the residents at the time showed what is happening at that intersection. So you have people driving out Woodside Priory. They have to already move in front of the line, actually to peek to see if there's traffic coming from the left. They have to then manage the timing because you have people exiting Georgia Lane, you have people coming from Portola, then you have from Brookside coming. It's a big chaos. And we have mentioned that this is not the right location. I understand that the other location, perhaps by Brookside, didn't work. But I don't think by Woodside Priory, unless you ask Woodside Priory to have only one exit to the left and one exit, from Gambetta, and make that circle. So there is not contradicting traffic.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I'll let committee member Kevin Welch talk to you.
Yeah, I'd like to address that. I was on that committee for a while along with Ed. We looked at all feasibilities in the study, engineering study we did, and it seemed like it was a very costly proposition, including the water department right in there. One of the things we recommended for move that big redwood tree, we did that this year, right, Howard? That's gone. I would like to see, again, being out here for a while, maybe a lower speed limit in that area. I think we're allowed to do that now if the sheriff is still there. I think we can recommend as a committee a speed limit of maybe 15 miles per hour. I know they're doing that in other school areas, but that is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit right now. And that might offset possible accidents in that particular area. It is a crucial area. There's no two ways about that.
Thank you for your comments, Kevin. Howard, do you have a response?
Just wanted to add to that the engineering team did look into those things and determined it. So once again, there was a notification. There was notification, if I recall, within 300 or 600 feet of that intersection to attend meetings. Also.
4 years ago.
Yes, and that was part of the overall town-wide. When we started 4 years, that was town-wide for all the improvements that we did.
But if nothing happens, don't you think that residents say, well, nothing will happen there since nothing happened in 4 years?
Well, once again, when we started this study, the thought process was that we would complete the low-hanging fruit, which was the 10 or 11 so intersections with signs, and those were done almost right away. And then that the rest of the improvements were only going to be done when funds were available, specifically grant funds were available. So that's when we immediately applied for the grants and got the grants. And the grant allows us for us to do it until September 2024. So I think it was always a project that was going to be in phases, because there's still the vehicle feedback signs that we're going to find grants for too, the speed feedback signs. So it was always meant to go in phases. So I just want to put that into perspective. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I don't want to spend a great deal more time on this particular item. We're covering ground that we have already covered. One question I would follow up that Caroline did raise is, for those people that are going to be in the locations of the new changes with flashing beacons, will there be some notification of those changes issued to residents?
Yes, as this moves forward, and we can talk about more notifications on this committee if we want to, but typically before construction, we set, just like we do with road resurfacing, we send out a notice, notifying all the residents within 300 feet. So if we need more notification in the upcoming months, if we feel that we have to renotice everyone or come up with a process to make this more apparent and get the information out, we can do that also.
Thank you, Howard. Does that address your concerns, at least in part, Caroline?
Yes, and hopefully we can work with the planning commission too, or so we know when projects are starting. As I mentioned in other meetings, we have at least 2 projects. We don't know the status of Woodside Priory, what they're going to do and when they're starting the new additions, if that was approved or not. We're just waiting. And there was another construction that was going to start off Georgia Lane. These are main corridors to access not only, this is the connection of our trails to various areas in town, but this is heavily used by the parents and the kids who go access the public schools, Corte Madera. Not Corte Madera, the elementary school, Ormondale. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my concern.
Let's keep a watching brief on this, and I can add it as one of our ongoing committee items. Please feel free to send me reminders on that. It's always very helpful. Thank you. There's nothing more for our public works update. Thank you, Howard, very much for the details you provided today.
Oh, one question. One quick question.
Very quickly, please.
Yes, any update on Westridge resurfacing? There's been no more information about it. Thank you.
And when
I'll let you respond.
Thank you, Rita, for that question. As I indicated, we went out to bid for the Westridge project, and the bids came in much higher than expected. So as I believe I indicated before, that we plan to rebid the project in December, January, and go into construction sometime in the spring, weather permitting.
I hope that there can be some emergency repairs on Westridge with the amount of trucks that are coming through every day. It is a nightmare. It's a roller coaster ride to Alpine Road and to Portola Road. Really, it needs to be addressed. I don't know if it can be addressed on an emergency basis, but it needs to be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. So we did send our crew up there to inspect it, and we've also told them to keep an eye on it through the winter time. And once again, this stretch of road was exposed to a lot of heavy residential construction over the last several years. There were several brand new homes there over the last 10 years there. So we will continue to keep an eye on it. Concerning the emergency work, on this paving program, there are some federal funding tied to it, which has specific conditions that we are trying to follow. So thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Rita. Let's move on to our next
I have
item.
a question too, since this flashing beacon is possibly on my corner, so I really want to ask my question. Am I able to?
In 10 seconds, yes, please.
Yes, I would like to see the drawings if they are not available to the public, to see what is planned. And we were told that August 2023, I know the committee members feel differently on different subjects regarding the beacons, but I would like to see safety continue to be a priority in the town. And this is a 3-year delay on safety. And we need a plan B if you're not going to do the beacons for a year. And I said this a year ago. So we're about 3 years of safety issues where the kids cross, they come down and they cross again to get to alpine swim and tennis. So I think the 300 feet away, I think this affects all Portola Valley residents and everyone that works here. And I think 300 feet away is not adequate for all the builds coming up. Anything on a main road needs to be noticed to everyone. So what is Plan B? I have done the research. I've sent the flag system. It is not that expensive to keep people safe. Thank you.
Thank you. With no further ado, I'd like to move on to our ongoing committee business. Item A is discussion regarding the opening of the Hawthorns property. And there are two elements to that, which are the opening and modification of Alpine Trail, and also the attendant concerns with new visitors and the parking and roadway access that would be required for that item. Working. Yeah, you're on. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, so with the Hawthorne Trail, there are many concerns as far as the parking at Hawthorne Trail or the Hawthorne project, excuse me. And the entrance and exit to the project is also something that we should be discussing. And the bicycle, what we envision as far as making it more appealing for people to be able to ride their bikes to the property and safely park their bikes so that they can enjoy the new park. Because this is new and something that we can start from scratch with. We can actually try to make it more inviting for people to ride their bikes as opposed to everyone driving, especially our local people. But there's never a safe place for people to park their bikes where they can feel secure in leaving them. So that's one concern. Second concern is parking. The parking situation, the plan, and I was sent the plan, or there's a document, it's about a 50-page document, and it describes everything that's going on with the Hawthorne project as of today. That was sent to me after the deadline for this meeting, as far as what I could get included in the packet. So that couldn't go out, which is frustrating for me because I wasn't quite sure how to educate the rest of the team with the Brown Act, how to work with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the plan, and the plan has 30 odd, it's not really clear. Let's put it this way. It's not clear how many parking spaces they're thinking about having, but they do have in the plan a number of backup parking spaces. They're looking at Roberts, they're looking at street parking on Alpine as far as options for excess, for overflow parking in Hawthorne. That's a problem.
It is. Have they highlighted any particular areas of Alpine that parking would
Well, the
happen?
across the way from Roberts is going to be the entrance to the Hawthorne property. Thank you so much. None of these things are decided. This is all in plan form. So there's two places that are, or three
I think
places.
three proposed entrances, no? Aren't there three proposed?
Would you be kind enough, please, to speak through the
Please,
microphone,
over
and
here
then
and-
everybody online, we can all hear you, and it will be
And
recorded.
introduce
Thank you.
yourself.
And please introduce yourself.
Microphone at the end.
Go over this.
Last chair.
That's good.
Yeah, Chris Baresi, Area Superintendent with Mid-Peninsula Open Space. Is this, I think I'm good.
Yeah, just speak as close as you feel comfortable.
Sure. I don't have the plans right in front of me. I did review them briefly last week. I know there's multiple configurations within on the site for different parking options. Nothing is decided. It's
Right.
very, very early. These are conceptual plans. As far as overflow parking, I don't recall reading what the options were. I know the back parking lot at Roberts and possibly working with them to reserve some of those was in there. I don't recall parking on Alpine Road.
It was brought up at one of the meetings that we had since the plan was done. It was because there are no parking signs on Alpine Road. There's nothing to stop people from parking on Alpine
I'm
Road.
gonna say, what do you think you may plan and what may happen casually by
Of course, that
action
would
there,
be
so-
my input to our internal working group that would need to be planned for.
We've
Similar
had
to
this-
any other access, and we do take responsibility. We'll work with the town, the county to sign no parking zones. And
Yeah, our
enforce it.
experience is based on Windy Hill, which has been an ongoing problem for us with the parking. And it's gone for years as far as how to keep the bike lane safe with the parking on the main road. So, it's just a major concern.
Of course, for us as well.
Okay. Oh, the entrances, and you're not sure. I know there's one entrance on Los Ricos, and then there's the entrance right across from Roberts. But I don't know where the third entrance would be.
The third entrance is, I guess, to the east of Roberts, near the original entrance to the property. I can't think of the cross street off the top of my head.
Please,
It's past Nathorst, I think.
It's Hillbrook.
And what is your name? What is your name, please?
Christy Corley.
Oh, great.
My name is Helen Quinn. I am a town resident, but I am also a member of the Public Access Working Group that's supposed to advise Mid-Penn on these things. And first I can say no decisions have yet been reached. As we did our walk around, the first walk around, and there'll be a future one, and public is invited to these walk arounds, so you can attend and be part of the discussion at those meetings when they happen. But as we did the first walk around, I would say there are two possible options for the additional entrance. One being the one you mentioned. There is a gate, actually a closed gate in the fence, and behind it there's what used to be the original driveway to Hawthorne's. And it has a lot of trees. So the question of whether that is still a viable entrance needs discussion.
Is this the
That
loca-
is between the current entrance to the property and Hillbrook. And then there's another possibility, which is the corner of the property, which is pretty close to Hillbrook, across the street from Hillbrook.
And that will be-
That's a more difficult one to put an entrance in, but that's, driving into the property. But it all depends on where the parking lot is put. The other thing I would say, and this is probably something you should be looking at, is the committee was told by Mid-Penn, I'm not sure who reached this decision, that the entrances from Ostrancus Road were not viable
Right.
because of sight lines. The question of whether they could be made viable by some trimming of trees or not, I think needs to be considered. But they're in the part that this public access working group is not considering because they access to the historical buildings. And that part of the preserve is not even under discussion by this group. So in thinking about parking, where the parking lot goes is the first thing you have to decide. And then what's an accessible, reasonable driveway to it with entrance, wherever the entrance is. That's all completely undecided as yet.
Thank you,
Oh.
Helen. Excuse me, Kevin, I'd like Howard to make a comment first and then I'll come to you. Thank you very much.
Wait, we've got,
Thank you, Ed. I just wanted to comment. I heard a lot of things here concerning, there were some concerns about potential impacts to Alpine Road and no parking. So I just want to clarify that. I know there's some discussions now concerning the Hawthorns, but sooner or later, and as I mentioned before, there'll most likely be some submittal from Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space to the town, a formal submittal to the Building and Planning Department. And we'll see what the procedures are, but one of the procedures would be basically to routing the plan to Public Works, and we'll take a look at it. Understood, yeah. And I just wanted to lay the groundwork, because there's questions on it, that when those do come in, most likely they'll probably come to the BPTS also, just like, other plans. And then, so I know there was some, right now on Alpine Road, there are no parking signs on Alpine Road. However, the shoulder edge line kind of defines where cars can park, right? Because you can't have a car parked in the travel lane because it'd get ticketed. However, there are some, there are unsigned spaces because of the wide shoulder in front of, example, Roberts and where Willow Commons is going right now. So those things we'll have to pay attention to and watch for also. And then also, one of the things like overfull parking onto residential streets such as Nathorst and Hillbrook. So, what I'm hearing is I heard some concerns about parking, and those are what I'm saying is these are kind of typical things that we'll be looking at also, but nothing official has come to the town yet. So as this is developed, obviously this is developing. MROSD is doing a good job on public outreach and bringing these issues ahead with the public and the study groups. And there will be a natural process once that is developed. And I encourage the BPTS, or just public members to participate also, so that when something does come to the town, it has a lot of public input from the town's residents also. So once again, I'm just emphasizing there'll most likely be a process here, and on the process side for the town, these are some of the things that we would look at, and then also the BPTS. And I'm only mentioning it so that you can also focus it on also when it does come in, So, thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I see a number of hands up and anticipating some comments. Please keep them to as short a time as you are able. Kevin, I think you
I
had
was
raised
only
a comment.
concerned
No,
one
no,
thing. Are there going to be any traffic studies done at that point on Alpine Road? I know the average speed right now, especially on the 6% downgrade, is 41.5 miles per hour. It's not 35 miles per hour. When they go down, even the bicyclists, and we do have a lot of bicyclists who will move about 30 miles per hour down that grade. I just want to keep that in consideration for the committee.
Just answer it.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, traffic studies are a routine part of any planning process that includes additional public access by vehicle to any public roadway.
Okay, if you're able to share any of that data with us at any stage, that would be helpful. It will be a part of the whole, yeah.
Yeah.
And one study is complete.
Ed, with your permission, may I speak at this moment? Because I could answer.
No, Betsy, please hold on. I have one person waiting at the podium in the
Thank you,
schoolhouse. Thank you. I will get to you. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Karen Batra. I just want to introduce myself. I'm also a member of the Public Access Working Group, and I wanted to touch on 3 topics. One is Mid-Penn was encouraging to use Alpine, but there are 2 gated entrances historically along those Trancos, and they did talk about the sight lines, but there have been exceptions to those sight lines that Mid-Penn has used in other preserves. And the one I'm thinking of is the new Mendango Hill location in Russian Ridge. If you've ever been over there, the sightlines there are really bad. So it's not that the sightline to me is a hard and fast thing, and it can be mitigated perhaps with a sign or with some vegetation. So I don't think that's completely off the table. And I think that's something we need to encourage the Mid-Penn as residents to consider if we think that that's a safer place. That's just something I wanted to put out there on the table. The second thing that you haven't discussed, and I think that would be the most valuable for this team, would be the safe routes to school thing. And when I drove here this morning, I saw a very young boy riding up the hill that Howard recently graded on his bicycle right at Portola and Alpine. It's kind of steep, going uphill on a bike. So is that, the question is really, do we move the trail behind the trees, or do we leave it sort of as is and somehow grade it to be a little safer? And I think that's probably a question for this committee.
Absolutely.
And there was one valuable input from a Mid-Penn person that if you move the trail behind the trees, is that really safe for a young child to be hidden from the public? So that to me is like, what is safe? What kind of safety are we talking about? That's the question. And I wanted to bring that into awareness. And then the third comment I had was for Pat. I didn't quite understand your safe bicycle parking question, because to me, if I see a tree and I have a bike, I put my bike lock around a tree. So,
well, I think that what happens. And if you have, yes, thank you. When you're parking your bike, and a lot of places, like if you go down to downtown Palo Alto, they'll have bike racks where you can lock the front wheel and the back wheel, or they'll have a cable available where you can run it through the whole vehicle so that when you get back, your wheel's not gone. You can run it through the seat so that your seat's not gone. And you carry a lock, but a lot of people don't. And to accommodate those people, there are many systems available for bike parking that offer more security. You could also get cages or containers where you can put your bike into a locker kind of situation, and then your bike lock can be used to shut the door as opposed to locking the bike. And that way, when you get back from your hike, your bike will be there.
yeah, that's very good input. And I haven't heard that before in all the discussion. So I would encourage you to officially submit a comment.
I'm going to, and yeah, because we were just trying to figure out, because of the parking, to encourage bikes, we need to make it as friendly as possible for bikes.
Well, it's also a possibility for Windy Hill.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we can get the vision figured out, then we can put it wherever appropriate.
Right.
And we really want to encourage as much biking as possible. And e-bikes, if you have an e-bike, a friend of mine at the tennis courts has an e-bike. She takes it there every day. She's like, I have to take it apart and bundle it all up because one day I didn't, and I came back and the seat was gone. So, we want to make it friendly to people.
Thank you. I think that's something also this committee could formulate a recommendation for as well as a
Yeah,
later
I
stage.
think that's right up our alley.
In the interest of keeping time and letting everybody make their comments, thank you for that point. Let me come round to Betsy.
Betsy.
Please go ahead with your comment, and then I'll get to you, Rita, and I'll get to Karen Askey as well. Thank you.
Oh, Betsy.
Betsy, are you still there to
Betsy.
make a comment?
Uh-oh.
Sorry,
Oh,
sorry. I
there we
thought I
go.
had muted. Excuse me. Thank you, committee. I have a few points on this, and particularly responding to the interest in a traffic study. I wanted to direct the committee's attention and Mid-Penn's attention to the August 26th site visit package from pages 11 to page 40 of that package. There's a lengthy traffic study that I think was the cause of the community concern that you're hearing as it specifically did cover Roberts Market capacity in some level of detail. So after we familiarize ourselves with that, I think the question for the community is really whether and if overflow parking is acceptable, and if so, where is it acceptable? It's obviously, if we put no parking signs along Alpine Road, then we imply that the side streets are all right. I think that that's something that we need to look into as a community, particularly after you get a look at the traffic study, that the one that's been done so far. I know Gary Nielsen has led this committee for a couple of decades now on studying the overflow parking out here at Windy Hill, and your numbers are, I think, might be a very valuable input to this conversation. They are both longer, they're far longer term, and they tend to hit the peak areas. Unfortunately, the traffic study here hit a summer day and a fall day, which aren't typically the peak traffic overflow problems. So I think that will round out the conversation very nicely. And I just want to commend us all for talking about this. Gathering early input is a far more gentle way to direct things. Coming in at the end, backloaded, wouldn't be as financially smart. So thank you for bringing this out for public conversation.
Thank you, Betsy. Howard has just passed me a note. They should have a backup plan for overflow on the you're referring to actually having some back. Would you comment, please, Howard? Then very quickly, I'll get to the next raised hands.
So, once again, once the item comes here, and I know there's a bunch of, there's some discussion concerning overflow parking. And once, there's going to be some ideas floated also, and how overflow parking, whether it affects other pieces of property or how it affects the rural character of the town or the scenic corridor. But it's important just to potentially bounce around ideas, because, once again, the Windy Hill situation is decades ago. I just want to remind everyone that the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space proposed a parking lot that was much bigger initially, and the town then indicated that it should be reduced much in size. So as we go through this process, it's the reminder for the committee and the town, when we go through this process, that we look at what is being requested. Is it adequate? Is there adequate space on the, that they're proposing on their property to provide overflow parking? So that, just once again, it's lessons learned from before, how we cut down the parking on site, and that became an overflow onto the public street. So maybe as we go through this, to make sure that as a traffic study comes from MROSD, those things are looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Next comment, I believe, Karen, you've had a hand raised
Rita.
for a long time. Please go ahead.
Rita.
No, Rita, I will come to you. Karen Askey, could you make your comment, please?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I want to, Betsy and myself and Pat are all on a town manager ad hoc appointed committee representing Portola Valley. Now, Helen and Karen are on a group through Mid-Pen that will be voting on the finalized concept. But on our ad hoc committee, we've had one meeting and we're going to have future meetings. And our hope is, I want to go through a timeline for you. On October 26th, Mid-Pen, the POG, the Public Access Working Group, is going to be presented with what could be a concept or two about parking and uses and all of that. Our committee feels it's important to get our input in before the concept is presented out there, ideally. So, and then from that, on December 16th, there's going to be a site tour looking at that concept and how it all fits. On February 29th of 2024 is their last meeting where they're going to vote on the design. From there, it will go to the PNR group at MidPen and the board for approval, and then it's going to come to the town. So I personally, and our committee thinks it's really important we gather as much input now so that we have a smooth process and that MidPen doesn't present something to the town that we just basically don't like, right? Let's all work together now. That said, I think we should be asked. So first of all, I would ask BPTS to be getting their comments into Pat, who's on our committee, so that we can get those all into MidPen and the POG group. I think that all of us agree that there ideally should be enough parking within the site that we don't need overflow. And I think we should be requesting that MidPen, even though they've portioned off the Los Trancos entrance now for the historic site, that they strongly consider that as a lot, so that we have lessened the traffic. And then the last things I wanted to point out is the study that's in the August packet is about parking. It's not about traffic. And I thought there was a very good point made about looking at the speed of cars as they go through those areas on Alpine Road. So I hope that clarifies some things. Thanks.
Thank you very much
Karen.
for outlining. I think that's helpful to all of us, and also the invitation to comments. You are welcome to make comments to committees through the town website, directly to me, directly to any member, and we'll help get those directed to Pat for comment with the town working group, and also make sure that that can get through the right channels. Karen, thank you very much for your comments. Rita, I'm coming through to you. Please make your comment quickly.
Thank
We're
you.
now
Thank
running
you.
very much over time.
Okay, and I'm just, no disrespect to Howard, but Howard, if we wait for MidPen to send in their suggestions, especially, I mean, you're part of our town brain trust, but in the planning commission right now, there's the planning department staff, we're losing and we have lost our brain trust. People that know about what's going on in the town, but you know, so the people, the residents live in the town. They saw the impact of Windy Hill during COVID and continuing people promoting Windy Hill and the amount of traffic and whatnot. And no one's talking about all the construction that's going to be happening right there on Alpine Road, not just across the street, but all along that corridor there. And that needs to be put into the traffic studies. I don't know who's paying for the traffic studies, if the town is paying for them or MidPen is paying for them. But if MidPen is paying for them, there needs to be some oversight into that with what's happening concerning housing and the possible traffic that's going to happen, not only with the housing when it's done, but the construction process over the next couple of years. But please keep the residents involved, have this item on agendas wherever we can, and the residents need to have more of a say, because when MidPen sends it, we haven't had but since March, I sound like a broken record, since March, there have been out of the 18 planning meetings, there have been only 3 meetings. So they're constantly canceled, and they were canceled even when they had a full staff. So please, let's not depend on the planning staff to address this issue properly for the future of Portola Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I see one more hand up from Christy. If you have a brief comment, please make it. And
yes, thank you. October 26th meeting is extremely important for this committee to develop a letter of all your concerns with all of your signatures and send it to MidPen, because you are a very important committee, almost the most important. We're looking at traffic, safety, pedestrian, and bike. These are our corridors, and this has to do with safe routes to school for the kids. So we have to send a letter in from our committees prior to the October 26th meeting. And then my question is, can Helen Quinn and Karen Vatra make sure that all the Portola Valley committees have the proper paperwork? I have a report that's 128 pages long. It has all of the recommendations that they're considering. and previous traffic and traffic reports. But what I noticed is the traffic reports are on Portola and Alpine Road, Portola and Hillbrook, Alpine Road and Hillbrook, and then Los Trencos Road and Alpine, and maybe one other location. We're not doing the whole road. And we probably need a traffic study on the whole road, because in 2017, there was a corridor study on Alpine Road that only went from Ladera out to 280. So then what happens between 280 and Arastadero, Hawthorne's entrance? So we can't only look at little segment of a road. And we had a death on Alpine Road. So we have to be looking at our trees closer for pedestrians. So there's so much to look at for this committee that I'd really like to see you pull every comment together, hold another special meeting, and get your letter, a subcommittee working on your letter and submitted before October 26th. You don't want to have them do lots of drawings. It's very costly, and we want a win-win for both parties, Portola Valley and Hawthorne's. Let's see, the 128-page report, I'll send it to you. I'm extremely disappointed that this committee did not get the report prior to this meeting. It's extremely important that we dig deep into their agendas. So past board agendas have a 230-page report on Hawthorne's, and their board agendas. It's not the POG, which is the Public Access Working Group. They've been working on this 2 years. This is just the final working group. I don't know, Karen, I'm not sure if you said it was 12 or 13 people, and we only get 2 votes out of that group. So it's extremely important that we know how to communicate with Helen Quinn and Karen Vatra, and that those 2 people can get us all the reports to the committees. How can that be done in a more efficient manner? Because it was my understanding that they want to get the parking set nice and early so they can continue with the drawings. That is their first decision. It's my understanding. And I went on 10 hours of tours already. So I've been at every meeting and talking to them. And I do believe they said 20, one of the options is 20 parking places to the left of the driveway and 20 parking places to the right of the original driveway. That brings parking up to 40. So I think, one of their proposals will be 40. And then one of the 3 parking designers, we asked, would the trees be there? And he said, no, we probably have to get rid of the trees for sight and safety. So there wouldn't be any trees, from what he said. So that concerns me. And then obviously bringing the trail in, the gates are locked at dusk.
Thank
so
you,
if
Christy.
the trail, there's a lot of things that I would like this committee to write a letter. Thank you.
Thank you. The procedure we have for writing a letter, we have very little time to collate the comments.
But the
from
Trails
everybody.
Committee is meeting twice before the 26th, so I challenge this committee to meet and do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know,
take that
I'd like to interject. If you want to get any comments you have to me, we're hoping that our committee, of which, as I said, Pat is also on, we can consolidate all of our town committee comments and provide them to MidPen. So I'll give you that avenue. All right, thanks. Sorry, I jumped.
Karen, thank you very much for that. People are very welcome to send those comments to me if they don't have Karen's address to pass on to Karen. Did you have a further comment, Helen? Please go ahead. But I don't believe we have time to draft a letter and approve that in that time.
This is Helen Quinn
Have a
again.
motion?
If you had a motion and can bring that before I think a critical.
Helen, please make your comment first and then we'll discuss.
My comment. A critical piece of input from you would be the relative safety of entrance off Alpine Road versus entrance off Los Trancas Road. Because I think that is a major decision piece. And if you don't comment, the committee has been guided by MidPen to think mostly about Alpine. And this may be not what you want. So if that's a concern, thinking about that particular concern early is important. I think everybody's telling you early input is better. Waiting till the town committee actually formally in the process, the town committee comes after everything is decided to review what MidPen is putting forward. But in fact, to be effective in getting the right designs put forward, town input early and often is essential.
What is the problem with having an entrance at both locations?
And that's not a problem except for more construction, right? I think MidPen's concerns are cost, of course, and safety, of course, but also impact on the land. And so more new roads on the land. However, there is a road from the Los Trancas, there is an existing road from the Los Trancas gate to what,
Okay, I think
in my opinion, is
the
probably the
fundamental point
most.
about making that, pardon my interjection, making that the one of the elements that we want to discuss is which is the preferred access for anybody is just stands on its own thing. We can discuss the details incumbent in that as a later time.
But for the town to give input on what is their preferred access, the right
Agreed.
point, I think would be really critical. The details, I agree, can be added later.
Thank you, Helen.
So should we have a proposal that we have a special meeting between now, earlier the better, because we have to construct the letter and get it in a timely fashion for this October 26th meeting, because it's super important. And it is really, I think, for us to do our due diligence as far as this committee. We should, because we're not called to action very many times. And here we are being called to action and really give our input to something that might actually matter. I think we should take this opportunity and figure out another time to meet.
Great, thank you, Pat. I think so. You are saying you would like to make the proposal,
Yes,
but
I
we
would
hold an
like to
interim
put-
meeting prior to giving some time after
Yes.
prior to the meeting on the 26th, with enough time to compose something
Yes,
to
yes,
submit
yes,
for
yes.
that meeting.
That's what I want to do.
I second that proposal.
Okay, okay.
The
accept it.
committee is unanimous on accepting that as a proposal. I will approach town staff to see what would be available.
Thank you. I think one step is to probably ask the building and planning department and potentially the council liaison also, is that in this process, because the MROSD has not provided a formal submittal to the town yet, and for the committee as a whole to comment on it, I don't know if there's any procedural items, but that should be probably fleshed out. I think it's a good idea for the town and its citizens to comment with Hawthorns, and certainly the committee members can do it as individuals also to comment. But I'll have to get back to the chair as to what is the correct procedure, because if we are indicating that the committee should be commenting right now as a whole on the Hawthorns project, I just need to flush out and go through the thought process of what the procedure should be, since no application has been submitted to the town yet. That's all.
Can I
And
chime in real quick there? Thank you, Howard. Do you mind?
Sarah, yeah, thank you.
That
Please go
okay?
ahead. No, and I'm going to make this our last item, and then we're going to plan to adjourn the meeting. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm glad to see that you guys are going to be doing an interim meeting in order to, solicit feedback and discuss as a committee and give that feedback in advance of the 10/26 meeting. As has been said, everything is very, very much early stage, but but at the 10/26 meeting, these things are going to be discussed. So the time is now. I totally support the comments that have made from those who are involved in this with that goal. Howard, I do think it's appropriate for the committee to submit their preferences. I absolutely agree. This is step one of a variety of steps to come over, what they're forecasting to be up to another 7 years in this process. But I think getting consolidated feedback in at this stage is appropriate. And so I'm glad to see that you guys are going to go forward with that.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate your support with that. I think then to determine the scope of the interim meeting that we would hold, its primary purpose would then be described as to solicit feedback specifically ahead of that 26th October meeting, and that it would not be a purpose to make any recommendations at that time or make any further proposals, but just simply as a funnel to gather the feedback and collate it into a coherent a letter of request to MidPen for their consideration. Does that clarify appropriately for as public input to the working group? Thank you. Okay, I think we've discussed that as far as we are able today. I'm willing to, if the rest of the committee is in agreement, defer the remaining items to our next meeting in the interests of time today, and propose that we adjourn.
I second that.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for your patience. Adjourn, and our next, declare this meeting adjourned, and our next meeting will be a regularly scheduled meeting on November 1st, with the extraordinary meeting to fall at a date to be determined. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.